Thank you. My name is Byron. I'm an alcoholic,
Hey Byron.
Byron.
and I want to thank you all for welcoming me, and thank Veronica for her kind words. She freaked me out when she offered me the opportunity to do this. I think she did it maybe a week ago or something, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't have to leave the house." Thought that'd be a pretty easy gig, even though I'm still nervous. Um, I always get a little nervous when I have to speak, and but I thought it would be easier speaking from home to my computer screen. So, but I'm still got the same jitters. But it's my story, so I shouldn't be too nervous. I pretty much know it pretty well. Um, I was born in Chicago, Illinois. Um,
Woo-woo.
on the shout out to Chicago. Um, and I know we got my man from Peoria out there, so shout out to Illinois. Um, but there's something interesting happened last night that I wanted to bring up before I got into it. We were out celebrating. A friend of ours got a year sober, so we were out at a big pizza place celebrating his year, and man, just having a good, clean, fun time. Just laughing and talking, and the waiter was kind of interacting with us, and you know, and we kind of freaked out that he kind of, we told him that we wanted to get that little cake that they give out for birthdays in a restaurant, but it was only for 1 year. You know what I mean? And so, long story short, at the end of the night, I paid the bill, and as I turned around, the waiter said, "Keep coming back." And I'm turning around like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he explained that he was actually also a friend of Bill, and that he wanted to know like where we hang out, where we go to meetings, and he just took out his pen and started writing down 3 meetings that we go to. And I just thought that was like the coolest part of the evening, that we were attractive. Our behavior at that pizza party made us attractive to him, and he wants to come to some of the meetings that we go to. And I think that's like totally what we're supposed to be about, just being a good example when we're out there in the public. Attraction instead of promotion, And so back to my story from Chicago. Good parents, good family, 2-parent home. My dad was a real disciplinarian because he worked for Chicago Police Department, Chicago Sheriff's Department, and so he was kind of rough and really strict. My mom was a school teacher, so we moved from one poor area to a little bit better area to finally like a really nice middle class area over the course of my childhood. We kept moving to better places as they began to grow in their jobs and stuff like that. And so, you know, 2 working parents, and they had 4 kids. So we had a lot of time to ourselves to kind of, big brothers kind of raising us and stuff like that, because both parents worked. And we didn't have a housewife mom or anything like that. So we had a lot of free time to get into some things, get into some trouble. And so anyway, I think with my mom being a school teacher, we were taken out of school. We transferred schools quite a bit because my mom always wanted us to be in the school that she was working at so that she could drive us home and be more convenient, stuff like that. So just when I would get, used to my classmates, we would move to a new school because my mom would be transferred to a new school. She was, a young teacher. They get transferred around a lot. So wherever she went, then I would go. So I say that to say that, I always had like to go and start to get new friends again. And I always was really nervous about that. And I kind of overacted to be extra cool when I came into the new class. I wanted to be liked by everybody. And I don't know, just kind of early on, not being really comfortable with myself because of the constant changes. So I think even before I was drinking, I was looking for something. So that's just early childhood memories. But let's get into the drinking. Had my first drink, graduation, 8th grade, and it was amazing, wonderful experience. I just remember that after I had that first one, all the other guys, we had a beer and we were really like, wow, this is awesome. But I remember being the first one to ask for a second one, and so that's kind of been on my MO for the rest of my drinking career. I was always going for an extra one. I would be the guy that, if we had a big party and we ran out of beer, I would always have a couple stashed down in the little fruit box down at the bottom of the ice box and stuff, or the refrigerator. I would always stash beers, hide beers. I could never, I could never dream of running out. And so fast forward, got into high school. Like I said, I graduated from 8th grade. So got into high school and drinking. I drank that whole summer after 8th grade graduation. Started hooking up with a guy across the street that was my same age, but he had that really good facial hair and everything, and he was able to buy liquor from the liquor store. So I drank that whole summer, and it was crazy. That my whole life changed really that summer after 8th grade, and it was like my parents were wondering why I was hanging with this one guy all the time across the street, and it was because he was getting the alcohol for me. And he was kind of just like a bad guy in the neighborhood. My parents didn't want me with him. And I'll say this, I told you all before that my dad was really strict. He was a Chicago police officer. He worked like 4 to 12 and 4 o'clock in the evening till 12 at night. And when he came home, he'd be really upset because he's been working in a jail with really bad people all the time. So he would be a little on edge when he got home. So he wasn't like, Mr. Brady, who I used to watch on the Brady Bunch. I used to hope my dad would be like him, but my dad was not like Mr. Brady at all. He was like what they do, and he was kind of like physical with it. Like if we were doing stuff, he would like give us little physical spankings and stuff like that, like they do in jail. So alcohol was the thing that made me stand up to him. Everybody, he ruled the house with an iron fist. Nobody talked back to him. My mom didn't talk back. None of my brothers talked back, But when I started to drink and I would get to a level of, having a good amount of alcohol in me, I didn't care. I was like the rebellious kid who would talk back to my dad. My sister would be like, what? Oh my God, knowing that I was going to get killed. But man, I would be so, intoxicated that, the belt didn't hurt anymore. My dad was one thing about him. He would spank us, but he would still let us go out. So as long as, I didn't get punished, we never had to stay in the house or anything like that. I would just take a good spanking and, I got plenty of. I was the leading spanking getter in our house. I promise you that. And we talk about that to this day. So anyway, I escalated into marijuana, through high school. My brothers worked in Indiana. They were steel workers. Both of my brothers were steel workers. And I don't know if you know anything about steel workers in Indiana. Man, I don't know. But they had the biggest and the best weed out there. And my brothers would have like pounds of weed. They would be bringing it back and having it in their rooms. And I was stealing it and taking it to school and selling it. And so I was a little marijuana dealer in high school and an alcoholic. I was probably an addict already by then, by 16, 17 years old, but I didn't really realize it. And but I also noticed I was really good at sales. I did really well, and I didn't really strive academically because uh, my plan was to just be a steel worker, just like my other brothers. And So all you needed was a high school diploma, to get that. So I had no aspirations for college or anything like that, because they were making good money in the steel industry, and they had lots of marijuana and nice cars and everything I wanted. So I just played around through high school. As soon as I get my high school diploma, I'm gonna go to steel mill and make money like them. But of course, when I graduated from high school, all of the steel mills shut down. And so I was unable to go to the steel mill, and I was poor academically, so I wasn't a great college candidate. So bopped around in college a little bit, local, 2-year programs and stuff like that. By then, I'm using a lot of drugs. I'm probably getting into cocaine. I would say during that period in our lives was during the cocaine crack epidemic, and it was crazy because I don't know who brought it into our neighborhood. It was like we were at the basketball court one day, playing basketball, smoking marijuana, and doing what normal kids do. And all of a sudden, it seemed like somebody dropped a big, gigantic bag of crack on our neighborhood because the whole neighborhood went crazy. Our whole community, I don't know how it got there, but our whole community, from the valedictorian to the star of the basketball team, became strung out on crack. And, just like people that you knew, like, man, people I looked up to, my brothers' friends, everybody was just turned out on this drug. And it was crazy because, like I said, we come from a good family. We were smoking crack and smoking marijuana in my dad's house. My dad works for the Cook County Department of Corrections, okay? So he had more marijuana in his house. If he knew how much he had, he could just make arrests right when he got home for dinner. So anyway, I'm a full-time addict at that point, and I progress on to crack, and you know how that can take you down pretty fast, and so it did, and that's just a really lethal drug, and I know the heroin is the hottest, most lethal thing right now, but back then. When I was, escalating my use, it was cocaine and crack in our community. And so I had 3 attempts at sobriety. The first time I attempted sobriety, my mom took me to a program. It was a 7-day program in Chicago on the South Side. And I completed the program. I was one of the top students within that program. Which means, I was in there journaling and all kind of stuff like that. And I really thought I was onto something. But in that program, they didn't give any follow-up instructions as far as like when you get out. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, hey, you should go do this. You should, So on the 7th day, when I got out, I didn't have any direction. I had been in there for 7 days, had a great 7 days. Drank a lot of Kool-Aid, did a lot of journaling, but had no direction for when I got out. So on the 7th day when I got out, called one of my guys, and I was using that night. And so that was my first attempt. A couple of years later, tried it again. I was homeless at this point, had lost one of my jobs, lost the apartment, and kind of begged my parents to come back and stay at their house. And my dad said, yeah, with one condition, that you go to meetings if you're going to live here. And so in order to stay at his house and enjoy those wonderful meals that my mom was making, I told them, yes, I will go to the program. I'll go to meetings every day. And I was good. 6 months into that, I enjoyed that. I was doing really well. 6 months, I had a new job, I had a new car, um, but I was starting to go out and I was starting to go back out to the bars and have cokes. I was hanging out with the same friends, but instead of drinking alcohol at the bars, I would have a coke. So that was I was just getting a little comfortable and a little full of myself with that 6 month period. And like I said, I had it real easy. I was living at my parents' house, pretty much doing the sobriety thing for them, not for myself. And one night I went out to a bar, 6 months clean, with all my little chips and all that. And the bar was loud, the music was pumping, and I ordered a Coke. I swear to God on everybody that I ordered a Coke, but the music was so loud in this club that the bartender thought I said rum and Coke. Okay, and if you haven't had a rum and Coke in 6 months, and somebody gives you one, it was the best rum and Coke I'd ever had in my life. And it was just, I still can taste that rum and Coke to this day. And it had that little lime in there. And, I could have stopped right there. But once I tasted it, I just consumed it. And that rum and Coke took me out for 5 years. So I went from 6 months to 5 years till I hit my bottom. And I would say I hit my bottom in the year 2000. And I've been sober since 2000, but I hit my bottom in 2000, where I was homeless and I was doing all kind of stuff. Somehow I got to Milwaukee on I was doing a lot of geographical moves, south side of Chicago, north side of Chicago, west side, Logan Square, just moving all over, Evanston, Illinois, everywhere. And so I finally went further north. The furthest north you could go was Milwaukee. And to the beer capital of the world. I didn't think I could find beer up here, but I moved to where they brew all the beer. And how much time I got? So anyway, yeah. So I hit my rock bottom. I was doing things on the streets that, I don't want to even repeat on camera. And, I finally just hit it. I was about to be homeless in Milwaukee. And my brother came up from Chicago because he had since got clean himself. My brother came up and dangled a rent check in front of me and said, "Hey, I'll pay your rent if you go, I'll pay your rent. You won't be homeless if you go to this meeting. I'll just write a check to your landlord or whatever." And I was feeling so bad at that time, and I was just so willing and so beat down that I just decided to go in there. And plus, I didn't have no other choice, and I didn't have nothing else going on anyway. If I'd have had $20 in my pocket, I wouldn't have went that night. You know what I mean? If I would have had $10, I wouldn't have went into treatment. If I would have had $7, I wouldn't have went into treatment. You know what I mean? I had absolutely zero. That's the only reason why I came in. Don't let me get in like I had a epiphany or nothing. I just didn't have anything. That's the only reason why I went in. But I had a little taste of it from having those two other treatments. So I kind of knew my way around the rooms, but this time I was a lot more willing, and I was just tired, man. I was at my wit's end, and decided to take the suggestions of the people in the rooms. Stand at the door, greet people, empty out the cigarette butts and all that shit that they was asking us back in those times. I think they were still smoking in the meetings. So, I just did everything that they asked me to do. I was willing. I was, I didn't want to go back to where I was at. Got a sponsor, read the book. Man, it was crazy because I had to get rid of my whole friends list. It was real lonely. Everybody that I was associated with was using, and I just stopped calling all of them. I just started hanging with entirely new people, and that's the way my life is today. Everybody I associate with is, most of the people, I mean, aside from work and stuff like that, is probably in the program, whole new friendships. I just couldn't hang with any other people that I was hanging with because we were all into the same thing. And, I just, deal with all the rest of you guys do. Recovery, got the book, got a sponsor, start fellowshipping with people, start going to conferences. Went to World Conference or something in Toronto. Went to New York. I mean, just like put my foot all the way in, stop hanging in the back of the program and start sitting in the front at the meetings, and, just got all the way in, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what I really needed to do. I didn't care what nobody said. I called up one of my best friends that I used to play basketball with, and I told him that I'm not drinking no more. And he was like, "Hey, dude, we're done." You know what I mean? I mean, he told me, it was like, "Hey, you can't handle you." I mean, that was the end of our friendship. And that kind of hurt, but I was really committed, and I was willing to lose friends and stuff like that because I pretty much had lost everything, from my youth. So, it's the same story. I had to stamp my story, through a lot of people. So you guys know how it is. I'll just say that, I've been in recovery since for the last 17 years, and my life has gotten 100% better through service work. I'm able to keep my employment, able to talk to you tonight, from my own home. It's warm in here. The heat's on in here, right, Veronica? Mm-hmm. Lights on in here. Y'all can see me in here, right? That's all all new stuff to me. I'm pre AA, lights weren't on, phones weren't on, and all that stuff, So, things have just gotten better. I give back. Veronica said it, and I thought she was talking about somebody else when she was talking about giving back and, practicing the principles in all my affairs. But I really try to do that. I try to do what I can. I'm not. It's so easy to just pick up the phone or give somebody a ride to a meeting or share your story like I'm doing tonight. I would go to any lengths to get my drug by the time I got in this program. So I was definitely willing to go to any length to stay sober. When I was out here, I was used to being in Black areas and, only one race and all that. But when I started looking for drugs, I would go to any area. You know what I mean? So I don't have no problem going to any area to speak at a meeting where I'm the only Black dude or whatever. It don't matter because when I needed what I needed, I was colorblind. You know what I mean? I'm into drugs, man. I'm not into nothing else. And yeah, that's me now, a changed man. People don't even recognize me anymore. But I was able to repair all the damages that I caused to my family, make amends to my parents. My dad died this year. He was very proud of me. And that was very key because, for me to have made that amends and for him to tell me that he was proud of me before he passed was just, phenomenal in my life, and I'm glad that I was able to clean up those things, clean up my side of the street before he left. And so that's pretty much it. I will plug my little program that I started in Milwaukee. I started a basketball program for recovering addicts. It's called Rebound. So every Tuesday night I get a bunch of heroin addicts and crack addicts and alcoholics, and we play basketball. But they think we're just going to play ball. But when they get to the gym, I have a bunch of chairs in the middle of the gym. And we have a big rap session. We talk about sobriety and getting sponsors and service work and all that stuff before we play basketball. So that's just one of my things that I do to give back from, what I've been freely given. I'm glad you guys had me tonight. That's all I got to give tonight. So I'll pass.